The Bitcoin Group, the American original. For over the last 10 seconds, the sharpest Satoshis, the best Bitcoins, the hardest cryptocurrency talk. We'd like to welcome our panelists. Dan Eve, the Crypto Raptor.
Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening.
Martine Wishmayer from General Bytes.
What's up, guys? Nice to be on the show.
Ben Ark from LN Bits.
Happy Friday, all.
And I'm Thomas Hunt from the World Crypto Network. Moving on to issue one. Issue one, SBF still pretending his crypto collapse was a mistake. Charges show it was a con. SBF was arrested this week in the Bahamas and now is fighting extradition, which has caused him to be locked in a Bahamanian prison cell until at least February 8th. Meanwhile, in New York, reports suggest that his ex-girlfriend or ex-polycule member Caroline Ellison is working with the feds and snitching on FTX co-founder Bankman-Fried. Dan Eve, what do you think about SBF arrested?
Well, I'm quite happy with this because I actually predicted it last week, except the slightly wrong order. I thought he'd screw up in Congress and then they'd arrest him on the back of that. But then there's this little kind of conspiracy theory that he was arrested because of the fact that he might screw up in Congress, and at least this way it silences him for now. But obviously it's a conspiracy theory. But the fact is that I think a lot of people really want this, and it seems entirely justified. He really let the cat out of the bag in all these interviews about how he mixed customer funds. He was very kind of blasé about the whole thing, really, considering he screwed with so many lives, and he just was so I don't know, kind of almost flippant, the way he was doing these interviews, telling his lawyers to go F themselves and all that. It shows an air of arrogance that he probably thought he can get away with it. So now it seems a bit more realistic that he is going to go down for this, and the charges they've put him up for are pretty darn serious. Seems like Ellison's going to, has turned against him. She went completely silent, like almost immediately, which shows that she's been listening to the advice and not stitching herself up by doing loads of interviews. The FTX CEO also chopped him in like days before to the Bahamian authorities as well. So it sounds like he's pretty much going to be alone in his cell for a while. Whether the cameras stay on, nobody knows. But will he even make it to the US? Apparently, he's really not happy about the conditions in the jail. His parents are really striving to get him some vegan food delivered, because he's not happy with the banquet that's being given to him in the jail. So it's all a bit of a crazy. It's going to be a crazy Christmas for him, right? But yeah, it's definitely going to lead to a good Netflix documentary. I don't know. I think what's the exit question? Can it be who's going to play Sam Bankman-Fried and Caroline Ellison? That would be an interesting one.
You think it's going to be Jonah Hill? Jonah Hill would be good. That's what I've heard.
That would be good, yeah.
But yeah, it is great to have Sam's silence on Twitter Spaces, to have no more interviews, mainstream media or otherwise. That almost makes it all worth it. Like Dan said, it is a pretty bad jail. Previously, they had a rat problem. They say the rat problem is fixed, which you can always trust a jail administrator when it comes to rats.
Well, it sounds like they've got another rat in there now.
Oh, they've got mud floors. It just looks like a bad place. And in addition to the vegan food problem, they're also giving Sam that really weird drug that he's on, Sam or something. They're giving him a patch, and they're saying that chills him out. And when he doesn't have that, he's apparently so addicted to that, allegedly, that he gets all the shakes and everything. So maybe he needs more drugs. Martine Wishmayer, what do you think about SBF arrested? And of course, the possibility that Caroline is not just silent, but working with the feds.
Well, it's He should have been arrested like long time ago already, but it's good he's finally in jail. I was a bit angry when I read that his parents asked him for some vegan food, considering that many of the people he stole from basically don't have anything to eat this Christmas. So how dare you even ask for your vegan food? You know, if he wants to eat, he better eat dust. And I think it's good. It's crypto has a bad rep in that respect, that people tend to like scam others and think they can get away with it. In this case, it was just excessive. And this guy belongs in jail. He's like Bernie Madoff, basically, with a sort of personality disorder. I mean, you steal from all the people and you start giving interviews that I don't know what happened. I have no idea where the billions went. Well, you bought over 500 million worth of real estate for you, your staff, your family. I mean, really, this is insane. This guy belongs in jail, and a long time. He's got to be in jail for the rest of his life, That's my opinion, personal opinion, but we'll let the judge decide.
Well, and it's not just that, Martin. It's also the effective altruism. Remember when he was up, he was saying how he needed to earn millions and perhaps billions of dollars personally so that he could then donate it and do the most good. And that not only was he better than all of us at business, he was also better than all of us at altruism and thus emotions and feelings. He had a bigger heart. He was a big billionaire, but he also had a big heart. And we also saw a lot of that big heart on the post-crash tour, where he just wouldn't shut up about how I made a mistake and I didn't have a dashboard to monitor things. And then I didn't even add this to the thing, but we also had the congressional hearing where, like you said, Sam couldn't be there. So the guy from Enron who's there to clean it up, the cleaner guy, Mr. Wolf, his real name's Mr. John Ray. But he's like Mr. Wolf in Pulp Fiction. He's there to clean up this mess. And he says he doesn't trust a piece of documents they had there. He said that it's the worst accounting system we've ever seen. They don't know where all their wallets are. They don't know where all their passphrases are. They kept passwords in a plain text file on the computer, so anyone could have ran off with it. They use customer funds for everything. And like you said, it's nothing fancy or technological. It's good old-fashioned embezzlement. They were just criminals. There's not frauds, nothing to do with crypto, nothing to do with Bitcoin or high tech. It was just fraud. Ben Ark, he's finally been arrested. To take some joy now at perhaps the end of this story or the end of this fraud.
Yeah, big hearts. We can have big hearts when you've got billions of other people's monies to play around with and be altruistic with. And a big ego too. And his big ego is probably collapsing on itself now. Now it's all reality's hit. And he's in that rat-infested prison with the dirt floor and no vegan food. And I think this is part of the problem, is he's been in this big swanky house and nothing really much changed for him in his material existence. He's in the same lovely plush surroundings, facing all these criminal charges, with all these reporters who were, cutting him a lot of slack so they could get stories out of him. So I just don't think reality's hit. And I think now, whereas the rest of the world can see this guy is going to go down because he's broken a lot of laws. And it's not just laws over embezzlement and not just laws over a fraud and of customer funds. It's also campaign contributions and all sorts of things. Like he's broken all sorts of laws, so he will definitely go to jail. But it's this typical thing with a white collar criminal, whereas you don't really know how long he's going to go to jail for. Like there'll be these lofty sentences and sentence time is thrown about, which you'll hear he's going to be put in jail for 150 years, blah blah blah. But how much time he actually serves, I don't know. And it's just that thing, it's not like cops with a white collar criminal. They don't smash down the doors and throw them around and then chuck them in prison. They get to hang out in their big fancy mansions until eventually, they're taken quietly to prison, which is what's happened here. But the Ellison girl, who's from what I hear, she's in hiding. I think SBF probably shot himself in the foot by alluding that he was shifting blame, saying he didn't know anything about it, had nothing to do with him, blah, blah, blah. So, the next logical conclusion is that he's going to stitch up the people around him, and she would be one of the people he would stitch up. So I think she's just gotten in there before he has. She's remained quiet. She's probably working with the authorities to try and get a slimmed down sentence. He's in a lot of trouble. This lad's in a lot of trouble. But I don't think he's like a sociopath. Like some people calling him a sociopath. He's not. He's just an idiot. He's an ego. He's an egotistical kid. Got too much money, too much power, too early on. Took too many drugs. All went to his head. Everyone around him was telling him he's amazing. And now he's got to come back down from that. Just like the Bernie Madoff analogy is great because Bernie Madoff also showed absolutely no remorse until he was in prison, and then he saw the detrimental effect of his situation was having on his own family, and then suddenly it brought it home to his, real world existence and the people around him who he loved and cared for. And I think the same will probably happen with SBF. I'm sure now he's starting to really think about how much trouble he is actually in. But hopefully he will show some remorse, or more remorse than Mr. Madoff, because that, I still don't think he's shown that much remorse for what he did. But yeah, it's a shit show, and justice will be served. But white collar criminals, they tend to get away with a lot.
Only about a week to go till Christmas. Maybe Sam will be like the Grinch. Sam's heart grew 3 sizes that day.
It could be visited by the ghost of Christmas past, or the ghost of FTX past, or the ghost of FTX future.
No more Dickens. No more Dickens. All the time. Everything's a
Couldn't give a Dickens.
Christmas Carol over and over again.
Couldn't give a Dickens.
Truman's Capote Christmas. That's what we need. Dan, Eve, we've got a bonus exit question with an additional story, because this is the gift that keeps on giving. Meanwhile, Kevin O'Leary from Shark Tank went to the congressional hearing. For some reason, he was allowed to speak, even though he knows nothing about crypto, and he didn't work at FTX, although he did work there. He was a paid spokesman. He was paid $15 million, of which he says he lost 10. At the hearing, he took his time before Congress under oath to say that CZ from Binance acted evilly and killed FTX so that he could take over the entire unregulated exchange market. He called CZ a liar. CZ called Kevin O'Leary a liar. And now Kevin O'Leary has called back against CZ, doubling down on his claim that Binance destroyed FTX. There's also been a bank run on Binance with at least $1 billion in Bitcoin being pulled off of the exchange. Some even saying that perhaps the run-up in Bitcoin was due to Binance having to buy coins. Dan, Eve, what do you think about Kevin O'Leary from Shark Tank versus CZ and the Binance situation?
Well, it's ludicrous that he testified in Congress, because he's literally paid by FTX. I mean, like he's in their pockets. So that's just an odd person to bring to testify, who's going to defend him as well. What I think other people are calling for Gensler to be kind of thrown over the coals as well, because he was very cozy with SBF on creating a crypto kind of framework for the SEC. And that obviously, if Sam Bankman-Fried is now one of the biggest scams in history, then surely that doesn't look good on Gensler for being so close to him. I think there are already other links as well. I read that the parents of SBF somehow were linked to Gensler in some sort of way. I don't know if that's all true or not, but it's definitely implicating a lot of people far and wide at the moment. And this downfall's, again, it's still not over yet. There's still going to be far more ripples. Not that I don't have any BNB or I don't even use Binance, but I just don't think it's saying that Binance made FTX buy back their assets. And it's calling that, which was last year anyway, and calling that the downfall of FTX, I think is ludicrous, because that's $500 million on 10 billion, right? So what about the other 9.5 billion? So that's it's just a stupid thing to kind of say, really. It's like what, 5% of the assets. So there's a lot more to it than just that kind of amount from last year. Some people were saying that the CZ caused the kind of bank run recently. But the problem, which is kind of a good thing, is that CZ is usually quite kind of transparent about things with Binance, and so he's only doing what he normally does. It wasn't anything really that's that much out of the blue, and suddenly crapping on FTX to try and cause their downfall. Although it is a nice sweet story to make, right? The guy with the monopoly then takes out the second biggest competitor, but he took out himself. he mixed funds himself. Like CZ had nothing to do with that. It's all unfortunately SBF, and the more it unravels, the more it looks like he was a sinister guy. And he had me fooled. I thought he was like, oh, I was saying, when it first happened, he's the fall guy. I reckon he's the fall guy. He did effective altruism. I was a sucker. That guy is a scammer.
It was amazing that O'Leary was allowed to testify given his interest in FTX and then what he said. And it was also interesting that he would choose to go ahead with his written statement after we all just heard Mr. Ray say that it was embezzlement, that it was not a complex crime. This isn't, because CZ took his investment out. It wasn't because of the FTT token. It was just straightforward mismanagement of customer funds. As CoffeeZilla proved in his interview with Sam, all the money went in one pile. It wasn't separated if it was margin traded. It wasn't separated if it was money for Tom Brady. It wasn't separated if it was my Bitcoin or your Bitcoin. Just one big pile, and they spent it all like children. And more that's coming out, allegedly. Martine, what do you think about the O'Leary story and the battle with Binance? And again, this contagion, this withdraw your own keys, Binance, and the next exchange and the next exchange.
I think Kevin Delirium is having a delirium. I would be totally pissed off if I'd be out $10 million. But no, there's a serious conflict of interest here. CZ called it bluff and said, I don't want to do anything with this anymore. Of course, the guy plays chess just like everybody else. This is an easy way to... no, not an easy way. It's business, don't hate the player, hate the game. So in this case, SBF was going down anyway, and it could have maybe lasted a bit longer, but it was a Ponzi. And I think as CZ just said, okay, this is enough. We're not going to do it anymore. We want to get rid of our assets in your company. And I think he's totally right. I would have probably made the same move, maybe even earlier, because I have a little bit less patience than, say, CZ. But no, they're claiming that CZ is the cause of all the problems, while everybody knows there's been just rampant fraud. They spent like what? 100,000 per month on catering. That was not catering. That's gone to the coke dealer. They were all strung out goblins, just making shitcoin trades instead of just holding their own keys and buying Bitcoin. I mean, they had it coming. And to be honest, this whole, I don't know how much Kevin Leary actually knows about what was happening at the company, but if he's like making these statements, I think he's part of the problem. And I don't know why they call him Mr. Wonderful, because I don't think there's anything nice about this person, really.
I think it's more of a sarcastic naming. He always offers these horrible deals where he'll take a royalty where every Coca-Cola you sell, you should pay me $1 till the end of time. Like, that would be a horrible deal. Think about how many Coca-Colas we sell in a year. And he's like, that's what I'm thinking about. Ben Ark, what do you think about CZ versus Kevin O'Leary, the battle of Binance?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think the O'Leary guy has much of a leg to stand on, really. Clearly, CZ, like, why would he, even if he had the opportunity to invest like $1 billion or something to keep the Ponzi going, he would just then be in trouble for being an accomplice. Or why would you want to like taint yourself with a company which is in such dire straits and a bunch of goblins, like Martin says. And then win-win, it also takes out one of his big competitors. So yeah, he's perfectly in his right not to want to get involved in that shit show. And if it benefited him also in his company, then I think that's just happenstance more than anything else.
It was interesting to think about how little due diligence time it took CZ to say no to the company, whereas Sequoia, these pension funds, all these other investors said yes to FTX, never looking into it, that they had no board of directors, no CFO, no HR department. They were going through it at that hearing, and they were like, this doesn't even seem like it's structured like a company. And like, yeah, no, it's just a bunch of guys hanging out, spending money. But we've got to move on to issue 2. Issue 2, Trump sells a new image as the hero of $99 digital trading cards. Yes, former President Trump has created his own NFTs. He sold 45,000 of the NFTs at $100 a piece, netting himself and the company that helped him set this up $4.5 million. The NFTs are profile picture NFTs with unique attributes such as foam finger or astronaut helmet, a Top Gun image. There's even a commercial. Let's see if we can watch a little bit of the commercial here.
Hello, everyone. This is Donald Trump. Hopefully your favorite president of all time, better than Lincoln, better than Washington, with an important announcement to make. I'm doing my first official Donald J. Trump NFT collection right here and right now. They're called Trump Digital Trading Cards. These cards feature some of the really incredible artwork pertaining to my life and my career. It's been very exciting. You can collect your Trump digital cards just like a baseball card or other collectibles.
And I just really love the way he introduced it, because that's always the way that I introduced my NFTs, was as collectibles or baseball cards. Previously, Trump called Bitcoin a scam. Now he's selling NFTs. It wasn't just the tech world that was excited about this. The entire political world was excited about this. Every late night talk show covered this. They're all into the new Trump trading cards, which as of right now are selling for about $200 a piece on OpenSea. So if you bought one at 100, you could double up by selling at 200. Martine, what do you think of the president's new venture, his major announcement, which he teased in the news, a classic showman, and released?
I need a bucket. I need to puke. I'm feeling sick. I mean, really, exit through the grift shop. This guy is going down. I mean, really. In fact, that he has no self-reflection whatsoever. I have this theory that every democratic country gets the leadership they deserve. If people fall for this shit, they just don't deserve any better. So, $99. I wouldn't even pay 99 cents for it. I mean, this is just crazy, man.
Well, I don't know, potentially new customers for NFTs, presumably people.
No, I mean,
or just more meat for speculators, because whoever got there first and bought them all is probably the speculators. Limits, yeah. It's
just unreal. I mean, this guy presented as a superhero. He's like a walking snail, really. Like, and then. Oh no! I just don't want to talk about it. I'm very not positive thinking about this. I really tried, but I had to throw up halfway the promotional video. I think this is just crazy. And if people, I can understand people voted for this guy and made like the wrong decision. It's very difficult to convince people that they did make the wrong decision. But then, when you see these NFTs, I mean, what the fuck? It's just, it's going the way of the Trump wine and the Trump steak and the Trump whatever. This is like not going down. Personally, I have to say, I'm not a big fan of him. But these NFTs, they're just so fucking lame. I mean, really. Maybe it's something for Dan. Maybe Dan wants to buy one, but I'm not going to spend a penny on it.
Well, let's see. We can pull this up real time right here on OpenSea, the open market. Trump digital trading cards. Let's see. There's been 1,571 Ethereum volume, which at around that's 1.5 million or 3 million, depending on the price of Ethereum. The floor price is 0.17. I don't know what that is. A couple $100 in Ethereum, maybe. And as you can see, let's look at the actual NFTs. Looks like the cowboy hat ones are going pretty low. They have different hand gestures, whether they're pointing at you, thumbsing up. There's that foam finger that I talked about. Different hats. And then I think we're not going to see them down here in the low price ones, but they, like Martine's saying, they have astronaut ones. They have superhero ones. Like it's almost a parody. It's almost like, is he in on the joke, making fun of himself? But I don't think he is. There's been.
I think there's a serious lack of self-reflection in this guy. There's like no self-reflection whatsoever. I don't think he understands the joke. He is the joke, but he doesn't realize it. Any attention is good attention for him. So
I don't think there's ever been a human being like this before. Ben Ark, what do you think of the president? And this is just for $4.5 million. Like, sure, it's a lot of money to us, but allegedly he has billions. Seems very low. Like I'm into NFTs, so I'm disqualified here, but the rest of the media was like, what a horrible thing. Like, this is like practically like he's selling used cars. Like, this is the worst. I mean, what could you imagine to be lower for the office?
Nothing's real. Like, it's like being in an 80s film like RoboCop or The Running Man and seeing, those like parody shows where they'd have like Climbing for Dollars or something in one of those 80s films. I just feel like we're in this surreal version of reality where the next president is selling these NFTs. But there is kind of something kind of cool how they remind me of a particular type of NFT card. There's a Curio card, I don't know if you remember them, but there was a one on there with Mad Bitcoins. And some of these Trump cards kind of remind me of those. So maybe it's a homage to Curio cards, this set which you can buy. But no,
there are some of these pictures where they put Trump's head on someone else's body. Actually, I would say all the pictures. So in the same way that Mad Bitcoin's head is on James Bond's body, there's definite like some trans body going on.
Yeah, trans body, but he's very trans. But it's just more Trump tat. He has a long list of tat which he peddles, and he always has. I think there is. Outside of it being Trump, obviously, I think there is definitely value in people being able to buy something which is attached to some sort of public figure, whether it be some sort of, YouTuber or thought leader or politician or whatever. And then with they're buying it because they want to kind of culturally own something which is part of, that thing that they're into. They like Trump or whatever. And then, as well as that, they're like, well, this thing may go up in value because I think that this person's impact is going to go up in value, and that will cause this thing to go up in value. So I think there's definitely something really interesting about cultural using this technology to buy into something culturally, which you then supports that thing, and then can also help. And then also those people who bought into that thing have like a vested interest to pump that thing. And absolutely, I imagine they'll go up because there's all these like people out there who are going to want to buy these teabaggers or whatever they call them in the US. These people who are going to want to buy these things, and they're not quite technically competent enough to buy them. But I do then think there's also a moral implication if you're buying into something which is going to culturally support a movement or a person. And if you're just doing it for speculation, I think there is some moral implication there as well. But yeah, there's definitely something interesting about the whole thing. It's sad that all this stuff isn't on Bitcoin. Like, we need to Bitcoin. I know for Bitcoin, like, we have a certain properties which Bitcoin fulfills as a store of value, or censorship resistant transactions and all the stuff we're doing on Lightning. But I would like to see more things like NFTs being built on Bitcoin, and the technology is there, and we can build these things on. And a lot of these projects built on Ethereum it is a hacky castle built on sand. So hopefully, some of the Ethereum, the ETH head types will move back into Bitcoin and start building some of these NFTs and things on Bitcoin. But I think it's interesting. More Trump tat and just a surreal version of reality which we're in.
Interesting side note: the Trump NFTs were actually released on Polygon, which is kind of a scaling token attached to Ethereum. And
that's it. It's because it's also hacky. It's like Ethereum doesn't work properly, so you need this extra thing, and then this thing doesn't work properly, and technically we can roll back this thing. So is it really like, immutable? Like, and we can build better. Like, we can do a better version of that on Bitcoin, I'm sure.
Well, and people always question whether the Polygon NFTs would be as valuable as an Ethereum NFT, but here the ex-president has gone and made some allegedly valuable Polygon NFTs. I like this gold one here. It says it's number 2. They want 4,500 Ethereum. Dan, Eve, what do you think about the president's new toys?
Well, I'm going to go out and say that I was actually going to buy. Didn't realize they'd already sold. I was going to buy some because there's enough. That they're going to go up in value because there's enough people out there that would just buy it. So from a not supporting Trump perspective, but just from a like speculative point of view, they're going to stay around for a while, right? Even when oh, there you go, it's Freudian slip. If he goes to jail or something like that, then they're still probably going to have quite a lot of value to it. They're going to become maybe even more rich because it's almost like jail is like it's like when maybe it's kind of like when an artist dies, they become more valuable. When they're locked up, do they become more valuable? So I think that they'll have value for a long time. And you just look at his Twitter account, and it's still got like 90 million followers on there, which obviously he's not active on it anymore. But it just goes to show how many people around the world could be possibly interested in buying those. There's obviously a lot of people kicking off who are actual supporters saying these funds aren't going to his election campaign, so they're really sad but if they bought an NFT, it wouldn't go to try and get him to become president again. But ultimately. The NFT just shows NFTs aren't over yet. However, the fact is, I say aren't over yet. They're not over, and they won't be. It's just this is just a little bear market as we have in normal crypto. But I do think this is going to be impacted negatively from anyone who doesn't like Trump. Right, so there's obviously a lot of feedback in general about, this is ridiculous. His announcement was just a joke, blah blah blah. Which you'd expect them to say whatever he's going to announce, right? But now there's a hatred that's going to boil down to more than just not liking NFTs. There's going to be an extra element, which is, Trump, bought into NFTs, therefore NFTs are bad. So that could negatively impact on the market in general and reduce adoption, because it becomes one of these, the NFTs are a tool of Trump now. Why would I want to support or get involved in a tool of Trump? So I think that could actually have negative impact on the NFTs in general. And also interesting to see that Ben's really sad that there aren't Trump NFTs on Bitcoin.
Well, let's build on that for an exit question. Is the Trump NFT release good or bad for NFTs? Martin Wishmayer.
I'm not a big fan of NFTs. I think, except curio cards, of course. It's the only NFTs I endorse. For the rest, it's like, I don't know. I don't even know what it stands for. It's not fucking tonight, or non-functional testicles, or what was it again? I don't know.
Ben Ark, what do you think? Good or bad for NFTs?
Yeah, I think it will be good for NFTs, and more people will follow suit. And there's definitely something interesting there for, like I said, for attaching value to a cultural movement, person, whatever. But yeah, I think it'll be good for NFTs. A lot of the world likes them. And I'm with Martin, and they don't particularly tickle my fancy, but people seem to like them. So it will be good for the whole thing, for the whole NFT scene, I think.
Well, and in the commercial, they really did hit every aspect of NFTs. They talked about them being collectibles, being baseball cards. They also, like you guys said, they talked about the community, and they had a sweepstakes. We've barely talked about it here because obviously you guys don't care, but you could win dinner with Donald Trump. You could win a meeting with the former president of America, and so forth. Of course, in the past, he's done many sweepstakes like this and often refused to show up for the meeting. It was great in the script. They've made so much fun of it. I've seen it a dozen times now, but he's like, you could even have dinner with the president. I guess that's the best prize we've got. He downed his own prize.
Yeah, it's probably having like a bucket of KFC together with Trump. I mean, what does dinner mean with Trump?
You can have ketchup on your steak, on your well.
He said that's all we've got to offer, or something like that's literally what we've got left in the bag.
That's the best we've got. That's what we got. No supermodels, no rock stars, just the former president. Dan, Eve, you started out, but what do you think? Good or bad for NFTs?
Okay, well, I thought about it a bit more carefully, and I think ultimately, although there's going to be a bit of resistance from from people who don't like Trump and therefore think NFTs are a tool of Trump and they're bad. So there's two things here. One is that everyone's talking about NFTs now. Like, the number of people that have heard about NFTs has suddenly grown massively. And they're now paying attention a bit more. Whether they're going to be on the like or hate end of the spectrum. But two, people are morally corrupt when it comes to money. So even if they're like, well, NFTs are bad because of Trump, but I could make some money on it. Now that I think ultimately is gonna trump morality, as it were. So I don't think it's going to have a net. A net negative effect. I think it is going to be a big not a positive thing, but I think any talk about something is what's it called? Any advertising to no, not heavy advertising, something like that.
No such thing as bad press.
There you go. Unless it's a hydraulic press and you're squashed underneath it, and then
that would be bad, like all those YouTube videos I like. But no, with NFTs, I've always thought of it as Andreas said about these kind of childhood coins where everyone on the playground would have a coin, and there'd be Johnny coin and Freddie coin and Al coin. And we're starting to see that now with Tom Brady and other celebrities, people like Gronk, who you can't use the uniform, you can't use the logo of the team, but you yourself as an athlete can go out there on a field, throw a football around, call them football cards. Trump can have himself put into these pictures and call them Trump cards. And everyone now has their opportunity, their chance to make their coin until we reach total saturation, which I think will be the point where everyone has their own coin. And now we're trading our own coins with our other coins. And you might not want more like Trump coins, but you could trade them to get something else, and then you could get a sandwich. So I think NFTs will continue.
It's a good business idea, I think, in general for someone of his popularity, because as soon as like interest starts to dull, around him, he can just say, on November the 15th next year, I'm going to be doing another, giveaway or something like that. And anyone who owns these NFTs, and then suddenly you've kickstarted the trading market again. And so people are going to be trading these NFTs to see what perks they can get whenever he announces them. So it's a very kind of shrewd way of kind of keeping yourself in the media, I think, as well.
Like Dr. Ruja said about OneCoin, I will double your OneCoin by November. I'm going to update the spreadsheet. Moving on, check out worldcryptonetwork.com. We've got 3,023 videos, links to podcasts, and more at worldcryptonetwork.com. Issue 3, Bitcoin a few weeks away from its first weekly chart death cross. Things could go from bad to worse for Bitcoin as bullish traders are taking their cues from technical charts. They say that the Bitcoin could come up on a bearish intersection of the two averages known as the death cross. However, on previous death crosses, the price has actually gone up, and it could signify a bottom. Ben Ark, is the death cross a bottom and a new beginning, or more bad news for the price of Bitcoin?
So I don't really care for all the trading stuff, but funny you say that about the death cross thing, because I swear we've had this story before, like 3 or 4 times, about we're going to hit a death cross and it's the end of Bitcoin and it's going to spiral out of control and go down in prices. It definitely has dropped in price, because I was making a Alan Bits extension this week where you can like have different, information points like mining info and liquidity stuff and fees and also the Bitcoin price and some Satoshi quotes on a panel. And as I was building it, every time I looked at the price, it'd gone down a bit, and it was making me sad, and it reminded me why I never look at the Bitcoin price and try and stay away from it as much as possible. But yeah, I swear I've heard this death cross story before. So like you're saying, I hope it's just that, and it's just the bomb. I can't see I personally don't think it's going to go down significantly to where we are now, but not trading advice.
It sounds like something out of Treasure Island. A pirate comes into the bar and offers you a death cross. Dan Eve, will there be a death cross?
Well, the one thing about this article was that caught my eye was that it said traditionally 15 months before the halvening is when Bitcoin reaches the bottom. But wasn't it in 2020? I suppose it wasn't the big, it was the bottom. Oh no, actually, no, I take that back. We didn't quite go down to the 3K level in March 2020. So, I mean, at the end of the day, I've never kind of really believed much of these kind of strategies. I for about 2-3 years I messed around with MetaTrader and all that, and they would just update the strategy when it didn't work, and then so it would always be like and then they'd fix the previous data so that it looked better against, and you're like, oh look how accurate this has been along the way, but you don't realize you're being fooled, that they've just updated the algorithm because it was wrong again and again and again and again. And but yeah, and also as Ben said, is this like this continuous the mining death spiral and all these kind of things that we hear that never actually pan out, just like the Bitcoin obituaries. I'm not a technical trader in any way. I think I should have just stuck to the ethos of just buy and hodl without sort of going through the phase of thinking, oh, I can trade Bitcoin and do leverage trading and all that stuff that's extremely risky and cause me nights and episodes. So the strategy should just be like, dollar cost average and hodl. And just don't make sure that if there is a bear market, you don't have to sell Bitcoin at the bottom to live. Make sure that you've got your living needs catered for, and then buy with the excess. And that is I've just had mulled wine delivered. Oh yeah, because it's Christmas. Thank you. So yeah, just be casual about it. Don't go all in. It's maybe a huge reward that you get in the end potentially, but most people lose out. So it's a zero-sum game. But if you've got the time and the patience, it's not a get rich quick scheme. It's a slow and steady wins the race scheme. And yeah, so I don't know. It's all these triangles and things, they perplex me. I'll stick to just having some sats and just locking them away forever.
The great thing about predicting the price on Twitter is you can go ahead and tweet twice, one saying that's going up and one saying it's going down, delete the other one later, and then you look like a genius every time. And so yeah, Dan, I'm not much into the charts either, but it does seem like they tell you there's going to be a decision point where the lines all come together and then it goes up or it goes down, but they never seem to know what way it goes in the decision point. They always tell you afterwards. They're like, oh, of course we were on a 9 and a 7 and a 6 and a 3. And it's like, well, if you knew this beforehand, you would have put all your chips in. And they're like, well, sometimes we're wrong. So Martin, a decision point, I believe, is coming. What will happen with Bitcoin and the death?
Well, Thomas, the thing is, this SMA, the simple moving average, just looks at the past. It doesn't look at the future. And all these analysis, like little trader analysis, it's bullshit. What they're trying to do is to take whatever worked in the traditional financial markets and then apply it to Bitcoin. But Bitcoin doesn't work like that at all. Actually, the honey badger doesn't care at all. The only thing that's really important is what, as Dan put out, just said, it's like DCA your way in. That means sticking to a plan, no matter what happens. Stick to the plan. Buy a fixed number of like whatever your currency is, dollars, euros, pounds, every month, every week, every day, or whatever, and just stick to that. Most people make the mistake is that they deviate from that plan the moment Bitcoin goes down, but that's the moment you should buy more. Not buy more, just stick to your plan. And if you look over the years, over the past 12 years, what strategy worked best is DCA, dollar cost averaging, meaning that if the price is high, you'll still buy your $100 worth every month, and you'll get a fewer sats than you would have if the price is down. If the price is low, you still buy your $100 worth and you get more sats. But in the long run, this means more profit for you. No headaches. You sleep at night. Just make sure you have a little bit money put aside for food, the misses, parties every now and then. But forget all these technical trader bullshit. I know we used to have, like, I'm not doing any names or anything, but there used to be somebody on this show that had, spin-off in his own YouTube show. I know people that made money just trading the exact opposite of what this guy told people to do. So it's just nonsense. If people claim they can use tools that worked in the traditional financial markets and then apply it to Bitcoin, they are lying. And I tell you, they're lying and they're just after your money. So don't do that. Keep it simple. DCA your way to riches. And, it's pretty guaranteed that this will be the most profitable strategy you can use. And it's also the easiest. And yeah, they might hurt a lot of those financial gurus. Personally, I think if you want Bitcoin to go up, don't just start trading and stuff. Create something like Ben does with Allen Bits, add value to the ecosystem. And by adding value to the ecosystem, Bitcoin will grow and the price will go up. And this is not guaranteed, but it's very, very educational. You learn a lot about the inner workings of the system, but at the same time, you can just DCA your way in, and don't worry about those sats. They'll be there as long as you don't keep them on SBF's exchange or any of the other shitcoin casinos out there. Just keep them on an offline wallet like a Ledger. There's fancy new models, or Trezor, which is tried and tested, and forget about it. And look, in 10 years time, you'll thank us later. That's the advice you need.
And now we have the only tool from the legacy financial market that Martin trusts, the Bitcoin Magic 8 Ball, the baldest and truest predictor of Bitcoin price. Oh, Ben Ark, will the price be higher or lower this time next week?
Lower. Shit.
Dan Eve, higher or lower?
Lower.
Oh, Martin, higher or lower?
I'm very bullish. It will be higher. The only way is up.
I'm always bullish as well, but that doesn't necessarily mean anything good. Bitcoin Ball, will the price of Bitcoin be higher this time next week? It is certain. It is certain. The ball is positive. All of this negativeness about the death cross, it's just gone away. I just feel so much better using the ball as my one true source of authority. Moving on to issue 4. Elon Musk faces growing anger over the Twitter ban of journalists. The suspensions, which were criticized by the United States and European lawmakers, could raise the regulatory heat on the social media platform and Elon Musk's other companies. Just this week, Elon Musk, who said there would be freedom and humor and no more censorship on Twitter, banned the kid that does the Elon Jet account where he would follow around Elon's private jet. He then went to Mastodon. Then Elon banned the journalists who linked to the guy's new account at Mastodon. Yes, he's banning people for simply linking to things, which has been many Supreme Court cases about Craigslist and other documents of if you can link to things, and if linking is as bad as sharing. For Elon, linking is as bad as sharing. He's quote unquote banning people that dox him. It got worse today as the journalist confronted him in Twitter Spaces and explained to him that what he was now doing was as bad as what he said they did to Hunter Biden with his information, taking it offline, that Elon had become the censorship monster that he tried to stop. His response was to shut off Twitter Spaces for the entire platform. Martin Wishmayer, the Elon Musk Twitter experiment just continues to grow. What do you think about this week's fun news story about Elon banning journalists, which is literally censorship?
It's such a knobhead, this guy. Within a month or two, he turned into a crazy narcissistic dictator that just wants to control the platform. And if he doesn't, it's like freedom of speech, but watch what you're saying. It only shows that the world really needs a decentralized platform. Actually, talking about decentralized platform, Ben, I don't know, Ben has and Fiatjaf, they got like Noster, and they got Jack's attention now. So I think this might just happen. I think next year we'll be tweeting announcements for this show on Noster and no longer on Twitter. But, maybe it's wishful thinking, but I think because of what we've seen recently, Twitter needs to die. We have to kill the blue bird for this world to be a better place.
I do feel like Elon's about trying to kill it himself. It might be the kind of thing where it's sold to Google or another company and people have to do a whole campaign where they're, come back to Twitter. Twitter's changed. It's better now. We won't just turn off Twitter Spaces because a billionaire gets upset. And Ben, as Martine was saying, I was going to mention it, Nostr got funded. According to this tweet, they got 14 Bitcoin from Jack, one of the original founders of the real Twitter in the old days. Good old Jack. And I can't find it, but somewhere back in my tweets, I sent tweets to Jack and I was like, hey, check out Nostr. It's what you're looking for, man. And it was like Chuck Berry and Back to the Future. So we called it here first. Ben, your projects are finally being noticed by big, important people, but you're still here slumming it with us on the show. Ben, what do you think about Elon Musk's Twitter nightmare? And congratulations on Nostr. And if you want to mention Fiat Jeff and Nostr.
Yeah, thanks, man. Well. I mean, I can't take too much credit. So like early on in Nostr, I made the Nostr Twitter. So it was like a Twitter clone. And I was just showing, and to be honest, I mean, I spent like a month on it or something, and it was pretty good. It was sort of 70% of the way there to being a Twitter, or 80% of the way there to being a Twitter. And then Fiat Jeff thought that made Branel, and I think someone's fought Branel now. And actually, whatever it is now, I can't remember the name of it. The Twitter clone, which is on Nostr, it's very good. Like, because when I did it, it had like public keys and private. Like, we'd follow, you would make a tweet, and then it would be signed with your private key. And then if someone was following your public key, then they would get those tweets. That's just how Nostr works as a data exchange system. But now you have like proper handles and stuff, and you can put media on there, and it's really quite good. So I haven't really done anything with Nostr. I mean, we have a bunch of Nostr things being built for LM Bits, like we have the marketplace thing and the Uber thing, and a bunch of other stuff, but it's still not finished yet. So we've just been working on those in the background. But this is tremendous news, because Nostr, as an idea, so basically for those who don't know what it is, it's just client software. And then as the client, it's just using public key crypto natively. So your client software, you have public key, private key, and you sign things and say, this is me signing those things. And then other people can subscribe to those things via your public key. And you can mask that through, so for people, it's just like handles and stuff and whatever else. But essentially, that's how it works. And you can build a Twitter on it, you can build a Telegram, you can do direct messaging. I did the NIP, we call them NIPs, Nostr Improvement Proposals. I did the NIP for direct messaging because I wanted to be doing crypto messaging on the Twitter clone I made. And yeah, it's great. And I think that Jack was, because they had the Blue Sky initiative where they were trying to do like a decentralized Twitter, but obviously he couldn't put too much energy into that, Jack Dorsey, because he ran Twitter, and I'm sure his shareholders would get annoyed if he then built some sort of decentralized or supported some sort of decentralized competitor, which is going to take their gravy. But now he's left the project. He's left Twitter, and now Elon Musk is through his own megalomania and dictatorship, he's now destroying Twitter. I think Jack's like, well, I can now support these great projects, and he's throwing some Bitcoin into the Nostr ecosystem, and it's a decent chunk of Bitcoin, particularly now when Bitcoin's so low. And I was speaking to Fiat Jeff about this, and I was just like, yeah, man, just sell those coins and just pay out some bounties for projects here and there, and let the Bitcoin go up, because that's going to be worth a significant amount of money in a short period of time, as we're all aware. But no, it's really exciting. There's lots of great people working and excited by Nostr, and a whole bunch of Bitcoiners. There's like Cooks from BTC Peso is very active, and there's just some great crypto people in there. Like a cryptographer crypto people. So this is a crypto project, as in cryptography. It's great to see it blossoming. It's great to see it getting support from Jack Dorsey, and it's also perfect timing because Elon Musk's argument, and it's a fair argument, is this is a private platform which I own. So yeah, I can ban people, I can do whatever I want. It's like, okay, well, maybe it shouldn't be a private platform. Maybe this is let's say it's an internationally used commons for exchanging information, and maybe we need some sort of public protocol, some sort of free and open source protocol, as opposed to it being under the control over one private company. And that's true of all social media, like you're at their benevolence, really. Like, however, whatever policies they want to make, whatever policies get pushed on them by, their government or jurisdiction in which they're in. Like, the reality is, like, all these things should be public commons, and they shouldn't be controlled by anybody. They should be controlled by the community as a whole. And that's that's what Nostar is. It's a public protocol. You can build all sorts of cool things on it, and you can contribute to it. And if you have ideas for different types of data which you want to send around the system, then you can contribute ideas for that, and you can build things and clients. And it's not hard to build on. There's a whole bunch of incredible libraries which have been built. People like Super Testnet, he built a great JavaScript library, and then there's some great Python libraries as well, some Go libraries. You can just bring it in. You can just use these public relays to send data and forward data and pull data around Nostar. So yeah, it's great. I was speaking to Jeff, he's really worn out by it because he was working pretty hard, and now he suddenly got this investment. Everyone's asking loads of questions, and so he's pretty tired. But I just said, look, take your time with it, and just it's great to see the project getting some recognition from Jack Dorsey. And he also tweeted out about it as well and said, Bitcoiners, this is something you should really take a look at, which is true, because it's not a Bitcoin project, but it just very much appeals to the Bitcoin mindset, I think, of using public key cryptography for censorship resistance and all that good stuff we like. But yeah, well done, Nostar.
Yeah, for people that want to find out more about Nostar, Ben, Nostar or Nostar?
Well, I pronounce it Nostar because Nostar is Welsh for good night, so I like that. Other people call it Nostra. Some of the Central Americans call it Nostra, but that's wrong. I think it's Nostar.
That
awesome.
Sounds Russian.
If you Google awesome Nostar, there's a maintained repo with links to the protocol page, which is a great protocol page, by the way. It's one of the best, most well-written up protocols. And then there's also links to projects which have been built on Nostar, like Supertester built a Telegram. I had the idea for the Uber thing, and I think he made like an Uber thing as well on it. And then, there's a whole bunch of great projects on there, and they work, man. Like, maybe not as well as some of these projects which have got gazillions of dollars worth of funding, but with a little bit of extra funding, which now we have, they could replace some of those systems. So yeah, awesome. Nostar, check it out.
If viewers want to find out more, there's like a Telegram group, Nostar_protocol, and there is also a website that says nostar.net. So it's like I'm still looking how to find more information, but I'm really like triggered now.
Awesome Nostar is a good place to start. Awesome Nostar is good.
Thank you.
It's also got links to libraries and things as well.
Well, Dan, it only took Elon Musk about a month to become the censorship monster that he hated. And again, look at this questionable action. He's scared away the advertisers. He's scared away some power users like Stephen Fry, who again gave him free content. And now these journalists, again, who give him free content for his website, he's stopped them because they shared the public information about a public person, which has always been happening. All of these TMZ and the tabloids, essentially, Elon wants to be famous without the tabloids. He wants to own Twitter and make political statements without any fallout whatsoever. Dan, Eve, what do you think about Elon's amazing brave new Twitter?
Well, it does seem like he's kind of come in and he's like, oh, it's going to be free speech and, the jokes are all good and everything. And then he started censoring. Although it seems like there is perhaps a bit more to the story. Like apparently his one of his kids the car was jumped on because their location was given away, and the reason why Twitter Spaces.
Think about the children. Think about the children.
Somebody think of the children.
Oh, fix the internet for the children. Oh.
But and also the reason why he banned Twitter Spaces took it down is because the people that he banned, suspended, because they used an old version of Periscope or something like that. They had an account that was just pre-version of Periscope. They were able to join. So people like Taylor Lorenz were able to join the Twitter Spaces, or was it one of the people? Anyway, was able to join the Twitter Spaces
because I thought I saw the Elon Jet account in the Twitter Space, and I was very surprised to see Elon Jet in the Twitter Space.
Yeah, so they got in a loophole. So although he had a hissy fit and stormed off, the reason why was because he had to speak to people that he banned and kind of be accountable for it by the sounds of it. So yeah, it's not going very well for him. And this does reinforce the reason why you do need a decentralized Twitter. But the problem is, we're going to be back to square one where it's going to be completely uncensored, and some people think that completely uncensored is really bad.
See, this is what's great about Nostar, is that there is censorship, but it's self-censorship. So it's like if you're in a town and there's some streets you don't go down because they're creepy and weird. And that's with Nostar. So like me, for example, with, say if I'm on my Nostar Twitter client, I'll only use relays, which are vanilla relays, and have some oversight. So if people post gross stuff on there, then the relay, whoever runs the relay, will then, remove those accounts. Whereas other people, but it's I'll choose to use that vanilla relay because I don't want to see like cartel people having their heads carved. But if you want to see pictures of cartel people having their heads carved, then there'll be someone running a relay where they're like, anything goes on this relay. It's like you have the choice to go where you want to go, and that was originally with Diagon Alley, like with the marketplace thing. It was like it's not there for muggles because they're not looking for it, but if you're looking for it, it's there. Like I think that's how it should be with censorship. People should say, I don't want my kids to go on, a Nostar Twitter and see fucking horrible things. But you can avoid that by just people using relays which stop horrible things from being posted, or you could even have like verified accounts and things. So it's very powerful. But the censorship isn't happening. Those decisions aren't being made on your behalf by somebody else for whatever reason, for their own interest or for the interest of the jurisdiction they're in. So it works really well as a way of still having some level of censorship through choice of where you
want to take the companies out of this, because the companies have to, by law, if they're serving the content, they can't be serving up these dead bodies or these horrible images. So they have to have some censorship. But if you have that thing where you're just subscribing to servers, it's you making the choice, and then it's an individual server issue.
Yeah, and I think it's a good analogy of going. Oh, sorry, I was just going to say the good analogy of not going down the street. Right, is you're choosing the places you want to go, the things you want to see, and it puts you back in control. The thing that is difficult for all these platforms now is when they start censoring certain information, then it puts them as publicists, right? In certain countries they become publicists, and therefore they've got to adhere to other different rules. So it changes the ball game completely. So at least this takes the onus off of the platform and puts it in a decentralized manner, so you get the choice. And if you want to look at crazy stuff, then you can choose to look at it, at least.
And then also, it's the street idea in a town it's any public space, because in any public space there is I'll go to a public space where I'm fairly I'm fairly certain that there's no dude's going to get his knob out and run around, and I'll be in that public space. I'm like, this is a space where there isn't a dude running around with his knob out. But there are other public spaces where people might want to go where they want to see dudes running around with their knobs out. So
all right.
So I mean, it's the choice of where the user wants to go, I suppose. And then if people are doing really horrible things, then it's good up to good old fashioned police work to then track those relays and services down and stop them from operating. But it's a good system.
Well, we're running out of time. Dan, Eve, are you ready with a prediction or a story of the week? Go ahead.
Yes. Okay. My story of the week. Oh, okay. Well, I'm going to go for two, actually. I'm going to go for, I reckon. Okay. So I'm going to add a little twist to this, right? I know that we've talked about it a lot, the SBF thing, but I think, right. How can Alameda not be in a lot of trouble for what's going on? And surely someone from Alameda is going to be brought over the coals and arrested. So I'm going for some legal action, or some is it Senate action, or what is it, the Senate, where they have the action against with someone from Alameda, because they have to be made accountable for they clearly knew that FTX was sending them customer funds. So someone's going to be getting it. And my story of the week is so we all messed around with I've been messing around a lot with Midjourney and character.ai and now. So I've got the best thing for anyone who's in a sticky situation with the partner. I have been communicating almost exclusively with my girlfriend using poems written by OpenAI.com. So if it's a cup of tea, for example, I'll ask this CGI AI to write a poem about requesting a cup of tea. And so I just give it this is so Carrie, my beautiful queen, you are the light that guides me. This is AI generated. I just said ask Carrie to make me a cup of tea downstairs. And this is what it said. Carrie, my beautiful queen, you are the light that guides me, the love that fills my soul, the reason I am whole. Our sons, Hudson and Theo, bring joy to our lives each day. I said the names as well. I said with Hudson and Theo and the dogs. I know I can face any challenge that comes my way. As the night falls and the stars come out, I sit there thinking of all that we've been through, and I'm filled with gratitude. I didn't ask for all of this soppy stuff, but it put it in there. I'm filled with the gratitude for the love you give and the happiness that only you can provide. So, my darling Carrie, I humbly make this request. Would you be so kind as to make me a cup of tea? And so, which brought a tear to her eye until I said that a robot wrote it. But if you're in the doghouse, just use this AI. Just write a poem and just give it a sentence. Everything, whether writing like asking for something, whether it's a cup of tea, or just trying to get some brownie points. But yeah, just use AI. It's incredible. Chat.openai.com.
You can use it for all your tech support emails and all your interactions in the world. Good stuff.
It literally does it. It does it. We even did it. So for work, to write an email to customers explaining this, that, and the other, and it wrote the email. It literally wrote the email. You don't even have to think about stuff anymore. It's absolutely incredible.
The future, a terrifying mess of really well-written spam. Martine Wishmayer, prediction or story of the week? Go ahead.
What Dan mentioned is this open AI chatbot is totally amazing. We've been toying around it at work. It's quite shocking. It can write website content better than I can write it. So I think we're all out of a job in just a few years' time. It will take our images and it will just produce a podcast talking about Bitcoin, and we will not be here. It will all be AI. So yeah, that's I fear the future. But story of the week, I think I really mentioned it before in previous episode that we launched a GM, the Gen Mega conversion kit. So if you own a Genesis Coin ATM, you can just get the conversion kit, which is a bright yellow box, and then switch it to our software. But I'm happy to announce that we've sold over 500 in just a few weeks time. So I'm amazed that this happened. Maybe it helps that our clients save 75% on any fees. So yeah, it's probably money as well. But I'm just totally amazed. I want to thank all of them if they're listening. That thank you for your trust. We will continue to make stuff more amazing. But it's our clients that just made it happen. So I'm blown away by it. So yeah, that was my story of the week.
That's awesome, Martine. And that's a program where old Bitcoin ATMs that are no longer being supported can get.
No. They're still being sold and they're still being supported. It's just from a competing brand, and they're no longer making any features. They're basically telling their customers to pay up and shut up. And that's not a good way to treat your customers. So the customers came to us and asked us if we can make a little mod kit, which they install in their ATMs, and then do a sort of brain surgery on the ATM. So from that moment on, it becomes a General Bytes ATM as opposed to a Gen Mega kiosk. So yeah, if they don't like it, they can still take it out again and they convert it back to the old original thing. But I don't think any one of them will do that. So yeah, it breathes new life into your existing old or not so old ATM, but competing brand basically.
It's so cypherpunk and so geeky, so second level. But I'm so excited that people found it and that 500 at least have already upgraded and going to upgrade. Ben Ark, prediction or story of the week? Go ahead.
That's an incredible amount of number of adoption in just the first week, isn't it? It's really spectacular, particularly if these aren't people who are going to be in your mailing list because they have ATMs with a different company. But yeah, that's really impressive. On the AI stuff, I just think 2023 is going to be the year where we realized we're completely inferior. This year we had a couple of goofy examples, like we've got this OpenAI thing where you can make poems and emails and stuff. We've had the great art bots as well. But because of the exponential nature of all of it, I think next year is the year when we realize we're completely and utterly inferior. And I don't know where that's going to put us, because, you know, we want the idea that we can be great at something, and then if there's this thing which could be much better than us just with a few clicks, I think the novelty may wear off, and I think our sense of self is going to be fairly low. I don't know where it puts human beings, but here we go. It's just, you know, the world in which we live in currently, isn't it? But so that's it, really. Just 2023. It's going to be a year of humans feeling bad about themselves, or low, a bit down in the dumps, because they realize they're just hairless monkeys, like hammering on keyboards, trying to produce interesting things, and computers can do it much better than us.
No, Ben, not so negative. We can be drunk all day. We can start daytime drinking, not feel responsible.
I'm with you. Yeah, we can be like the ancient Greeks. We can just sit around eating grapes and stuff. And you know, but the
we'll have drones feeding us grapes like the cherubs.
It's different to the ancient Greeks, because the ancient Greeks, like, they had they were uneducated slaves who were doing all the work, whereas we're not going to have uneducated slaves doing all the work. We're going to have things which are much brighter than us doing the productive things, and we're just going to be like useless. You know, we're not.
Well,
there's no point in
like Vonnegut talks about in Player
ideas.
Piano, you can't change the uneducated slaves into those people that sit on the cushions reading the books. Like, they're not going to be interested in the same things. They have different attitudes. And like Ben says, if there's not any satisfaction, there's not any competition, there's not any.
But we're drive. Not. Yeah, exactly. We're not like, we still, that window, partly why the ancient Greeks, they were coming up with democracy and science, and it's like, we can come up with all these great things because we're humans, and we're the educated ones. You know, we're the ones who have the privilege to be able to be educated, whereas these other people aren't. They're the ones who are the slaves. So it's not quite as the same as like a society which relies on a slave population to do all the work. It's different to when the robots do it. So I don't know where this puts humans in the sense of self. Very sad, very sad. Anyway.
Well, it happened so quickly, because for a couple of minutes there, I was really excited about Martine's AI plan, because I thought that AI would be too expensive and they'd only make like Frank Sinatra and John Wayne AIs, right? And they're not going to make a Thomas Hunt one. But now I'm seeing that they would make a Thomas Hunt one. They would have enough sample size from the World Crypto Network and so forth that they could make one. And for a minute there, I was excited. Like you said, I didn't have to do the show. Show works on autopilot. And then just a couple seconds later, I started to realize then they could make me say all kinds of horrible things. And I'd be up here saying fart and poop. And they would just say, oh, look, Thomas Hunt, push the buttons, say horrible things. So there goes that dream. It ended just that quickly. And that's just the beginning of it. Like, then they could cut me in with Sinatra and we could both say horrible things. I don't know. It's just awful. So, oh, well, so much for that AI future. Next week, we're going to come back with the end of the year spectacular. We're going to predict all the categories. I want to give a shout out this week to author and CEO Justin Rhedrick, who went from behind bars to teaching about Bitcoin at Jay-Z's Bitcoin Academy. Shout out to Bitcoin Vegan. He was one of the big supporters in the Black Bitcoin Billionaires group that was founded in part by my friend Lamar. So shout out to Lamar and all the Black Bitcoin billionaires. It's a really cool story. He started out not really knowing much about Bitcoin, but he wrote a book about it, and he teaches kids and adults at Jay-Z's programs in the projects and so forth. And it's great to see how anyone can get into Bitcoin, become an expert, go out there and spread the word. And a just really inspiring story from Yahoo News, and great stuff from the Black Bitcoin billionaires. Always a fan of that group. So thanks so much for everybody for joining us. Be sure to give us a thumbs up down below. And until next time,
bye.